All right, y'all. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're back. We're here. My name is Bailey Hoops. I'm from Austin. So this is a little bit of a trek to come out to you guys. Thank you for welcoming me out here. Y'all have a lovely library. I appreciate you having me come. A little bit of my background. I started studying plants as an herbalist. Oh, okay. All good? Oh. Okay. Oh, everything okay? Oh, I'm getting an echo. Okay. All right, y'all. Sorry for the technical difficulties. So I started off studying plants as an herbalist. So I studied medicinal herbs, and then I studied permaculture with Austin Permaculture Guild, and then I found my way to native plants. I've had, in the last couple of years, I've really started honing in on native butterfly plants and native trees. I'm really looking for ways to support pollinators and native wildlife in my community. So that's a little bit of my background. Why are we here talking about native trees? Pretty much because the trees need our help right now. We've had some pretty big weather situations the last few years. And right now our trees are struggling in our area. So how I got here. Trees of Hope started as a concept for me about 3 years ago. Did anybody else get traumatized by tree limbs and trees that they love with ice apocalypse and snow apocalypse? Who has oak wilt in your neighborhood? Oh, I'm so sorry. Me too. Anybody watching their neighborhood forests get destroyed by making way for new residential real estate and highway? Oh, I know it's horrible. I know it's a necessity, but these things are all around us. What about losing trees that are not adapted to this new climate we have going on? It's easy to feel hopeless, but I decided I couldn't let all these factors get me down. I was ready to make whatever small changes I could to help my property, my neighborhood, and my newly displaced wildlife calling our community home. I started buying small native trees, all 1 to 5 gallon, and collecting them as my house was going through a major remodel. I researched what native trees to buy. I scoured all the nurseries and quietly started referring to my trees as my trees of hope. Now, I will say I am not an arborist. I do not have a horticulture background. I am just someone that's really passionate about plants. So I can do this, so can you. I'm not more educated than anybody. I'm just really excited about it. All right, so the construction project that was supposed to take 6 months took 11 months. In the hottest summer of our recent memory in 2023, my small collection of trees kind of became my hope point here. I could collapse under the chaos of uncertainty with the weather and my home being under construction, or I could keep on going and do my research and plant the trees that I love. I walked the paths of the Wildflower Center. Yay, Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. It's close to my heart and close to my house. I took classes about gardening for wildlife. I also took the Native Landscape Certification Program. Yay. I see some teachers out in the crowd. I learned how much hope can be found in our native trees. These trees were meant to grow here and they've evolved to support our wildlife and the pollinators, most with low water needs once established. So this is my house. I lovingly refer to this tree as Okie. She's my grandmother oak, really close. And you can see this was very close to my construction project. So as I was watching all of this go down with the weather and my community changing, I just started going on a research mode. And I learned a lot. And my goal here is to share what I learned with y'all. There are so many fabulous online resources, books, locally owned nurseries, botanical gardens, and tree-focused nonprofits here in Central Texas. They can help us inspire others to change what we want to start seeing in our own yards. Today, I'd like to teach you about some of my favorite trees that will succeed and thrive in your landscape. Enough backstory, let's talk trees. So, starting off with one of my favorites, and you will hear me say that various times throughout the process because it's really hard to pick one. It's like your favorite child, right? Mexican plum. So that one's beautiful, first of all. Love those flowers. Moderate growing, deciduous tree, 15 to 35 feet tall by 15 to 20 feet wide. Usually a single trunk tree, can sucker. You want to make sure to prune those suckers if you do not want a patch of, or excuse me, a thicket of Mexican plum. Some of the reasons I love it is it's a low water use tree, sun to part shade, adaptable to many different soil types because it's found in a variety of ecoregions here in Texas. It also is one of the first flowering trees. I don't know if any of y'all have gotten to spend the time with a Mexican plum in its full blooming glory, but it is just pulsating with pollinators. It's such a cool experience to watch it just covered in butterflies and bees. You know, they've had a long winter. They're ready to get that pollen. Mexican plum is one of the first trees that provide it for them. It produces 1-inch sized plums, turning purple when ripe in July through September, which attract wildlife. Fall color interest, yellow leaves, and it's also a larval host plant for the tiger swallowtail. Now, I will say I love butterflies, but caterpillars and butterflies are more than just the butterflies themselves. They provide food for our birds. It's a very important food source. So when we think about host plants for butterflies, we're actually providing a lot of other different nutrition for other animals in our ecosystem. Next up is another one I was talking to this gentleman in the first row about. Red buds, beautiful, another early blooming spring tree. It's hard not to love those beautiful pink flowers, right? So we have 3 different varieties of redbud. The Eastern redbud, Cercis canadensis, Texas redbud, Cercis canadensis variety texensis, and the Mexican redbud, Cercis canadensis variety mexicana. All 3 are small trees to large shrubs. I will say this class is called Trees of Hope. I could have called it Trees and Shrubs of Hope, but it just didn't have the same ring to it. So we will talk about a few shrubs. And in Texas, some of our trees are kind of shrubby. There's kind of a blur in that distinction sometimes. So one of the big differences between the 3 is the height. Eastern redbuds get the tallest, topping out between 15 and 30 feet tall, where Texas is about 10 to 20 feet tall, and Mexican is the shortest, being 5 to 12. All are approximately 10 to 15 feet wide. Texas redbud is the one that's most adapted to our limestone soils. I will say I'm in Southwest Austin. I'm on the Edwards Plateau. Y'all know Austin is divided I-35 into Blackland Prairie and Edwards Plateau. So my plants are geared more towards the Edwards Plateau. Beautiful, gorgeous, showy flowers. They flower again in that peak bloom in early spring. I love the fact that the flowers bloom before the leaves come out because they're really spectacular. They're not distracted by the leaves. Low water, full sun, part shade, in my experience, does best with afternoon shade. This is a plant in the Fabiaceae family, which is the Latin for the legume family. And there's a special attribute that Fabiaceae plants have. It's a relationship with the bacteria that lives in the root nodules of these plants. The bacteria is called the rhizobia bacteria, and it has this special skill where it takes the atmospheric nitrogen and turns it into a usable form that the plants can use, ammonia. So it's a built-in fertilization system. And it not only benefits the tree itself, but it also benefits the plants planted around it. So we really like Fabiaceae plants. That's part of permaculture. A lot of us use nitrogen fixing plants for the benefit of the plants around them. It is also, Fabiaceae plants have legume seed pods, so that's the fruit of this plant. And it is also a larval host plant for the Henry's elfin butterfly. You will see Henry's elfin butterfly referenced a few times in this presentation, so they use a lot of these trees for host plants. I just want to give a little description here about the difference between the redbud leaves. We have the Texas redbud on the left and the Eastern on the right, and you'll see that the Eastern has a much more smooth margin, which is a fancy way of saying the exterior edge of the leaf, the margin. The Texas redbud is more wavy. It is also glossier, so it helps reflect some of the light, which makes it more drought and heat tolerant. The Eastern also needs more water, like we said, drought tolerant. So if I was to pick one, I would not choose Eastern redbud for our area. Definitely go with Texas or Mexican. Next one is Texas mountain laurel. You will see on here that I have two different Latin names for it. I'm not going to say them because we'll be spending the whole time laughing at my inability to say Latin names correctly. But I will say the Native Plant Society database has the correct name. The Wildflower Center is a little bit behind the times on this one. So yay, Native Plant Society database. I'm a big fan. Craig Dalton is one of our Austin chapter members. He runs our database. This one is very slow growing. Has anybody tried to grow a mountain laurel? It's a slow growing process, correct? 12 to 20 feet tall is typical, 8 to 12 feet wide, usually multi-trunked. It can be trained into a single trunk tree, but out in nature, you will see it usually as a multi-trunk tree. Great use as an evergreen screen for privacy. Low water needs once established, adaptable to many soil varieties because it is native to the Edwards Plateau. However, good drainage is required. Full sun to part shade is ideal. Showy, fragrant, 3 to 7 inch long drooping clusters of purple flowers in February through April. So I'm going to date myself a little bit. I was born in the 80s and I lived in Long Island, New York, and we had this bubble gum growing up called Big League Chew. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that here, but basically you got this big wad of grape bubble gum. And that's what I think of every time I smell a mountain laurel is that Big League Chew grape flavor. You know, it reminds me of my childhood. Cold, heat, drought, and deer resistant. It is another plant in the Fabiaceae family, so it's another nitrogen fixing tree. The fruit is another legume seed pod. We have a discrepancy here. The Native Plant Society database says that all parts of this are poisonous. The Wildflower Center says only the seeds. I trust the Native Plant Society database. It is also a larval host plant to the Genista broom moth. And I don't know about y'all, but in Austin, we've been actually having a lot of Genista broom moth activity lately. People kind of get freaked out. I see a hand. Yes, people get freaked out when you're growing a plant that's that slow growing and it gets eaten by but that is their host plant. So we kind of have to think about, you know, we're supporting our wildlife here. They eat the entire It's kind of like Gulf fritillaries with the passion flowers. You kind of just expect, like, you know, we're growing your food source. So it's kind of a live and let live situation. All right, another one of my favorites here, Mexican buckeye. This is a fast-growing deciduous understory tree, 8 to 20 feet tall by 10 to 20 feet wide, multi-trunked, open crown, prefers AM sun and afternoon shade, and a low water use plant. It's adaptable to multiple soil types, native to many Texas ecoregions. Showy aromatic clusters of pink blooms in March through June attract pollinators. Whenever I see the flowers of this tree, I think of elephants. They have those stamens that fall out kind of like an elephant trunk. Very cool. Large compound leaves, and I'm assuming you guys all know what compound leaves are, correct? So this example right here, you may think that is a leaf. That is not a leaf. Actually, this whole entire thing is one single compound leaf made of multiple leaflets. This one is cold, drought, and heat tolerant, deer resistant, and cotton root rot resistant. This is in contrast to another shrub that we'll talk about that is not as cotton root rot resistant. So that is a good plus on this one. Bees also produce fragrant honey from the flowers, and it is also a larval host plant to Henry's elfin butterfly. And these are the seed pods. This is one of the easiest ways to identify this tree because the flowers are pretty short-lived, but even after the leaves fall, these capsules, 3-lobe capsules containing 1 to 3 poisonous dark brown to black seed pods. You can kind of see that buckeye in the capsule right there. It's a pretty telltale sign. Oh, another one of my absolute favorites, Anacacho orchid tree. Don't you just love those leaves, the butterfly-shaped leaves? Another compound leaf. These are 2 leaflets. Fast-growing, multi-trunked, deciduous tree, 6 to 12 feet tall by 6 to 12 feet wide. Prefers full sun to part shade. Another Fabiaceae legume family plant, another nitrogen fixer. Prefers limestone soil native to our west. It's actually a relatively small native range in Texas, but it's found a lot in the nursery trade, so it's one that I recommend. It does well in our area. Interesting compound leaves, cloven shaped or butterfly shaped with the two leaflets. Fragrant, showy, white orchid type flowers found in clusters March through May. Attracts bees and butterflies with their nectar. Continues to bloom sporadically past its peak season after rains. The fruit is a large flat legume seed pod, good deer resistance. This one is somewhat weak wood. So I suggest planting this one on the south side of your home or next to a windbreak to protect it from our harsh northeast winds in the winter. All right, this is another one of my favorites. Everybody know wafer ash? Is this a new one to anybody in here? I love the winged samaras on here. They just remind me of the moon. They're so beautiful. Its Latin name is Patelia trifoliolata, and it kind of gives away a good identifier in there in that Latin name, the trifoliolata, three-leaved. So you'll have the three leaflets to make the compound leaf. This one's slow growing, deciduous, an understory tree, very adaptable to a broad variety of soil, moisture, and light requirements, found in a variety of ecoregions in Texas. 10 to 25 feet tall. I rarely see it getting to 25 feet tall where I am. You guys might have deeper soil than me out here, I'm not sure. It's a slender kind of crooked trunk. It's not really, in my experience, a very broad tree. It's a little like Charlie Brown Christmas tree in my neck of the woods. It's a little homely looking sometimes, but once it has those samaras on it, it really lightens up the show. It's in the Rudiaceae family, which is actually the same family that rue and citrus are in. So this is like our native citrus tree, although it does not produce citrus fruit. Small white clusters of flowers in April attract pollinators. The fruits are the broad-winged samaras that we've discussed a couple times already. They look magical. Drought, cold, heat tolerant, and deer resistant. Has anybody crushed the leaves on this one before? It's not really a pleasant smell. It's a little skunky. It almost reminds me of like a Heineken beer. It kind of has that hoppy smell to it. I wouldn't plant it right next to my front door. Let's just put it that way. Host plant for Eastern tiger swallowtail and also the giant swallowtail. Is anybody familiar with the giant swallowtail butterfly? Have you seen the caterpillar? It looks like bird poop. It's so interesting. It really does. If you look at it, if you first glance, and like what better camouflage for a caterpillar to look like bird droppings to have the birds not eat them. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You don't need to be poisonous when you have a good costume. Another common name for this tree was hop tree. German settlers actually in Texas and other parts of America used this in replace of hops when they moved here and they started brewing beer. So that's an interesting medicinal quality. Hops are another medicinal plant. Evergreen sumac. This one is pretty much solidly, I would say, in the shrub category, but I couldn't not include it. It is one of my favorites. I know I've said that a couple times already. Rus virens, small, fast-growing, multi-trunked evergreen tree, tall, 6 to 10 feet tall by 6 to 8 feet wide, full sun to part shade, prefers well-draining limestone soil, native to Edwards Plateau ecoregion, low water use, susceptible to root rot if overwatered. Remember we talked about Mexican buckeye, where that one was more not susceptible to cotton root rot. This one is. I have made the mistake of planting new baby plants close to established evergreen sumacs before, and while trying to get those new babies established, I have had damage to my existing evergreen sumacs. So these ones really are, once they get established, very, very low water use. I will say, you'll notice that I'm not talking about a lot of evergreen plants in this class. I have kind of come to the determination after snowpocalypse and icepocalypse that deciduous trees and shrubs really have their place in our landscape. I don't know about you, but a lot of the plants that I lost in these big storms were my live oak branches or my ash juniper trees. Those were the ones that were green once we got these big ice storms, and all the weight of that accumulated ice really put a damper on. I lost my power for a week straight in Austin, and all I could hear was the crashing of limbs in my backyard. It was so, it was terrible. But this is one that I do recommend for evergreen plants. I had no problems with my evergreen sumac in all of these storms and droughts. They just performed like a champ. One of the cool things about this one too is it has these shiny compound leaves that they get tinged pink in the spring. And then on here, you can see they're kind of tinged maroon a little bit, and they do that after our first frost. White to green 5-petal flowers found in clusters, July through September. So if we go back and talk about the ones that we've already discussed, we had really early blooming, the red buds and the Mexican plum. Ideally for pollinators, we want to spread out that harvest, right? The pollination for all these different pollinators. So this one is really cool because it blooms July through September. And this year, honestly, I was seeing it bloom in October in Austin. So I love plants that kind of stretch out the show for us and the pollinators. It also makes beautiful fuzzy red berries that are attractive to look at, but they're also edible. We can do something where if you take the right berries and put them in a glass of water and let them steep for a little while, we get something called sumac aid, which is similar to lemonade. It has a tart taste to it, and it is also high in vitamin C. I will say, as an herbalist, I have learned that you really need to be 100% positive of your identification before you start munching any leaves or berries in our plants here in Texas, especially. I learned a phrase that kind of lives in my mind that I'm going to share with you. Never munch a hunch. So just remember, when you're out in the wild and you do not know what it is, please do not just experiment by putting berries in your mouth, because some of the plants that we're going to talk about here, that is not a good idea. This one is okay. So if you're 100% positive it's an evergreen sumac, I recommend, but like I said, never munch a hunch. There are separate male and female plants of this variety. So if you want the berries, you're going to need a female plant. A lot of the nurseries sell female only plants. So hopefully you have some males in your neighborhood that can help pollinate and you'll get your berries. This is an example of a queen butterfly and a bee sharing an evergreen sumac snack. And this is another version of sumac, flame leaf sumac. This is, again, another one of my favorites. Fast growing, yay, fast growing. A lot of these ones have been slow growing. Another deciduous tree, as you can tell, beautiful fall color, gorgeous. In Austin, this I would say is one of our most beautiful fall trees. Heat, cold, drought tolerant, prefers sun, about 12 to 30 feet tall, 10 to 15 feet wide, generally disease and pest free. This one really likes to sucker. So beware, if you plant this one, you may have more than one flame leaf sumac in your future. Prune the suckers if you want to avoid that. Blooms are 4 to 6 inches long with panicles of white to green flowers. This is July through August, so not quite as late as the evergreen sumac, but another prime bloomer in our summer. For me, it helps kind of keep the motivation to keep going out and watering where I need to in the heat of the summer to see the flame leaf sumac berries and flowers. They also do the same clusters of red berries. You can also make sumac aid from these berries as well. It's a larval host plant for the red banded hairstreak and the banded hairstreak butterflies. It also provides nesting material for native bees. And this is just an example. So not only do you get that beautiful fall color, look how gorgeous those flowers are. And also the berries put on their own pretty show as they ripen. I would like to point out, this looks a lot like a couple other trees in our neck of the woods, one of which we're going to talk about here in a minute, soapberry, but another one is one that's actually invasive. Does anybody know which tree I'm referencing? Very good, Chinese pistache. So I was just on a tree ID walk. I volunteer with Tree Folks, a nonprofit in Austin. And we came across on the trail, we had flame leaf sumac, Chinese pistache, and soapberry all on one trail. So we sat and looked and tried to figure out the best way to tell the difference between them. So one easy way to do it is if you see the midrib of that compound leaf, it's called the rachis. And you'll see it has little wings on it. Does everybody see the little wings? If I was taller, I could point better, but right up there. The soapberry and the Chinese pistache do not have those wings. Another way to tell the difference is if you crush the leaves. Chinese pistache has a really distinct smell. It's got like almost like a camphor type fragrance. When you crush the leaves, it's very, very strong. Flame leaf sumac, if you crush the leaves, no scent at all. The soapberry has a peppery smell when you crush the leaves. It's much different. So use your nose. If you're unsure, you can figure it out that way. But they are really, really close. Yes. That's a very good point. Yes, fast growing trees tend to be weaker wooded. So that's one aspect that they can be a little bit of the shorter lived. I don't 100% know on all of them. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Sorry. So if I had to choose just one, it would be this one. This is my absolute favorite. All right, I promise this is the real favorite. Golden ball lead tree. It's also known as wahoo tree, which I think is just like the most appropriate name because when you walk up to it, it's just a wahoo. I mean, look at that firework display of a flower. This one is very fast growing. Out of all the trees that I grow, this one has shot up so fast. It's really impressive. 12 to 25 feet tall, 12 to 15 feet wide. I will say mine is only 2 feet tall and it's, 2 years old and already over 8 feet tall. So that's pretty fast. Deciduous, multi-trunked, also in the Fabiaceae family, so another nitrogen fixer. Prefers full sun to part shade. Oh, yes. That's what we talked about in the beginning. So the bacteria that lives in the root nodules transfers atmospheric nitrogen and makes it into ammonia, which can be used by the roots of that tree, but also the plants around it. So it adds this nitrogen that is usable to the plants, to the soil. And it's really a cool symbiotic relationship because the plants in their roots, they make sugars that feed the bacteria, and then the bacteria converts that atmospheric nitrogen to the ammonia, which the plants can use. So they're feeding each other. It's pretty interesting. Another one that is native to the Edwards Plateau in areas west of Austin, heat, cold, and drought tolerant, showy, sweet smelling yellow blooms April through October, usually after rains, also attracts pollinators. Another legume seed pod for the fruit. Beautiful, unusual cinnamon colored bark. I will say the flowers are gorgeous. The bark kind of steals the show though. If you really look at the bark closely, I'm going to show you a close up here in a moment, but once you get a look at the bark, it's hard to not pay attention to the bark and almost ignore these beautiful yellow flowers. Open canopy makes this a great tree to provide dappled shade for growing other native plants underneath of it. Protects from that hot summer sun. This one is weak wood, so plant near a windbreak or south side of a structure to protect from those winter wind gusts. Isn't that so cool? The striation is just magnificent. And you can also see how beautiful the leaves are. They really have that prominent veining. So it has a lot of different visual interests throughout the year, even when you don't see the beautiful leaves and flowers. Okay, so not everything we plant is a success. I tried to plant some cherry laurels and I included them in my presentation because I wanted to be honest that sometimes not everything works where you plant it, right? This is the one that I planted about 2 years ago. You'll see it's looking a little limey. It's a little bit chlorotic. This tree shrub, kind of right on the middle there, is usually a more glossy green leaf, but in the limestone soils, it tends to have this kind of iron chlorosis going on. So it's something I would recommend more for clay soils, which I don't think you guys have, but This really is a fabulous tree. Prunus species in general are just so great for pollinators. I'm sure y'all are familiar with Doug Tallamy. He talks a lot about how Prunus is one of the very essential genuses for the food web. Prefers the blackland prairie, native to East Texas. Limestone soil can cause chlorosis. Blooms February through April, tiny yellow flowers in 2-inch long clusters. Small round fruit turns from red to black in fall. Dried berries attract the birds. High deer resistance. This plant is poisonous to humans, so do not munch this hunch, okay? Larval host plant to the red admiral and tiger swallowtail butterflies. This one does need good drainage. It's also, I think I mentioned, sun to part shade, medium water use. All right, Ilex vomitoria. What an unfortunate name, right? Well, I wouldn't want somebody to name me vomitoria. No, thank you. As an herbalist, I really love this tree because it's one of the only plants in North America that naturally contains caffeine. So as the prices of coffee keep going up and up, maybe you can think about harvesting your Ilex vomitoria leaves. I like to make chai tea out of my yopon leaves. What I do is I put them on a baking sheet, stick them in the lowest temperature my oven goes, and toast them for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then I mix them with chai spices. And so basically you substitute the black tea in the chai recipe with the yopon, and it's really quite lovely. It's a beautiful beverage. This is another one of the few evergreen plants on my list. This one did really well throughout all the winter storms. I didn't have any issues with it. Multi-trunked in nature, 12 to 15 feet tall, 8 to 12 feet wide. Shade tolerant, but does produce more berries in the sun. Again, another one where only the female plants produce the berries, and usually the females are what we see in the nursery trade. Tolerant of a variety of soils, drainage, and water conditions, drought, heat, and cold tolerant, and native to a variety of Texas ecoregions. Blooms April through May, flowers attract pollinators, red berries ripen in the fall and provide food for winter berries. And I didn't know this. I was waiting one winter, why are my yopon berries still on the tree? Like, what's going on here? And I found out that the birds actually prefer the berries post-freeze. There's something about the freeze that I think makes the berries sweeter to the birds. And usually after we get that first freeze is when we see all the cedar waxwings come in and just devour the berries on it. It's really cool to watch them kind of swarm in. They're talkers too, they're loud. Birds also use this dense tree for safe nesting. It is also another larval host plant for that Henry Elfins butterfly. Moderate deer resistance. And I will say, this is not a berry you want to munch. As much as I'm saying you can make tea from the leaves and twigs, do not ingest the berries. The berries are poisonous. So that's my little trick with yopon, no berries. And then we have its cousin, possum haw. So same family as yopon, another ilex. This is Ilex decidua, and right there in the name, decidua deciduous. This one is multi-trunked, 12 to 30 feet tall by 6 to 12 feet wide. Best berry production, again, is in full sun, but can tolerate some shade. Tolerates drought, cold, heat, poor drainage, and a variety of soil conditions, native to a variety of Texas ecoregions. The leaves are a similar shape to yopon. They have a little bit more of that like kayak paddle shape to them. They're larger. If you feel the leaves too, you can tell the difference when you feel a yopon leaf. It feels thicker and waxier. When you feel the possum haw, it's a little bit more malleable in your hand. And usually you'll tend to see those evergreen leaves are tougher because they have to be if they're going to hold on through our winters. So when you feel the leaf, you'll understand why it's deciduous. Small white blooms March through May, followed by small berries that ripen to red during the fall. Again, attract birds and wildlife, such as possums and raccoons. I don't know about y'all, but I like possums and raccoons. Not everybody does. They do their jobs. Dense leaves and crown also can encourage nesting birds. It's really easy to recognize in the winter because once those leaves fall, it really highlights the red berries on the branches. And it's such a lovely timing because it's usually right around the holidays. So it's kind of like Mother Nature's Christmas decoration. The leaves and twigs of this one also do contain caffeine, but not as concentrated as the possum haw. So if you're going to make your tea and you want your caffeine, I would suggest going with Yaupon, but possum haw is an alternative if you're looking for something kind of on the decaf range. And another way is you can tell them apart when you're out in the wild, out in nature. Look at how dense those berries are. You can tell how small the leaves are compared to the size of the berries. This one, the berries are much more spread out on the possum haw, and compared to the leaves, those berries are teeny tiny, right? But the berries are similar size on both plants, so you can really get an idea of the difference between the leaf shape and size. Another good one. I won't say my favorite because I already said favorite. Yes.
Did you say that possum?
I don't know if I said it, but it is true. There are male and females. Thank you. Texas persimmon. I love Texas persimmon. So I was lucky enough to have this one on my property. I live on an acre and a half. And when I lost so many of my live oaks and ash junipers in these recent storms, when they fell and we cleared them, I discovered all these beautiful Texas persimmons that were just growing and weaving in and out of the evergreen trees. And that's kind of the reason why they have these sculptural trunks like that, is because they're kind of trained by the trees that they grow up around in. This one is semi-evergreen. So it loses its leaves for a very short amount of time. If we have a harsh winter, some winters they do hang on. 10 by 20, or excuse me, multi-trunk we already said. 10 by 20 feet tall, 4 to 5 feet wide. I will say that's a little on the small side. I see them a little bit wider than that in my property. Prefers full sun to part shade, limestone soil, and has very low water needs. Drought, heat, and cold tolerant, again, found in a variety of Texas ecoregions. Known for those sculptural limbs, the attractive peeling bark. You really get some cool colors on the bark too. They kind of range between like a silver and a deep purple. Great replacement for those non-native crepe myrtles that we all don't love, right? The leaves are glossy on top, but they are fuzzy. They have, especially on the underneath, if you look at those leaves too, they have the smooth, rounded margins, leaf margins. The entire margin is what another name for it, for smooth margins. But they are kind of rolled on the leaf. So if you touch a leaf, you'll really know what I'm talking about. It has those kind of rolled edges. It's kind of unique to our leaf shapes. Blooms February through April, small white urn-shaped fragrant flowers, attractive to pollinators. And this is another one that has female and male trees. The females are the ones that produce the large, 1-inch large blue berries. Each has multiple seeds, so you got to be kind of tough to eat the Texas persimmon. It has a thick skin, and then you have a bunch of seeds inside. So you're not getting a lot of bang for your buck when you're eating Texas persimmon. The wildlife don't seem to mind that one bit, though. They love them. Let's see. It also tastes like a mix of like prunes and dates and raisins. If they all had a baby, that's how I would describe the taste of the Texas persimmon. Larval host plant for the hair streak and Henry Elfin's butterfly. Close up of that beautiful berry. And this is an example of, so this was the seeds put out of one single berry. So that's a lot of seeds for that size berry, right?
Did yours flower and fruit this year?
Yes, they did. But interestingly enough, on my plant walk where I was talking about the 3 different trees, the Chinese pistache and the sumac and the soapberry, we were identifying a Texas persimmon, and there were some dried persimmons on the tree. And we thought, we were there for a tree ID walk for tree folks, and we thought, we'll save the seeds. This is perfect. And we smushed them, and there were no seeds in them. I thought that was really interesting. I will say though, going back to another tree that we talked about, the Texas mountain laurel, I did not have any blooms on my Texas mountain laurel this year. Did y'all have any blooms? Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, right?
No.
Not, I know, that's the wrong word. Devastating. Ugh. Yeah, when you're growing that slow growing tree, you don't get the bang for the purple flowers. It's a little bit of a bummer, but mine did flower and fruit this year. Oh, another one. This one I would say is definitely a shrub, but I couldn't leave it out. It is another just gorgeous, gorgeous plant. Fragrant mimosa. Sorry, Mimosa borealis. Small, multi-trunked, deciduous tree or large shrub, 2 to 6 feet tall by 6 to 12 feet wide. I will say mine are bigger than that. Mine are at least 8 feet tall by now, maybe even closer to 10 feet. Thorny, 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 thorny. Sun to part shade, tolerant of many soils, prefers rocky soils, native to Edwards Plateau. Very, very low water needs. Great for the xeric garden. Drought, heat, cold tolerant, and high deer resistance. They don't like those thorns either. Open airy crown, covered in gorgeous, fragrant pink puffball flowers. These smell just as delicious as they look. A great nectar source, March through July for bees and butterflies. Delicate compound leaves. These are actually bipinnate leaves. They're leaflets without have leaflets. Let's see. Okay. They're ideal to grow under because they have that open canopy where they're that dappled shade in the summer. I will say, as someone who made the mistake of planting this too close to other plants, don't put something that's high maintenance right underneath this tree. I cannot tell you how many times this one has ripped my hat right off my head while gardening. You know those blow up dolls they have at like car washes sometimes, that they kind of have the dancing balloons? That's what this tree reminds me of, because it's sturdy at the base, but those outer limbs really are floppy and wavy all over the place. Another Fabiaceae legume plant, so again, that nitrogen fixing quality. Even the seed pod on this one is prickly, so it is prickly through and through. Stars and underline, do not plant near foot traffic. Take my word for it. I planted mine, I would say one of mine about 8 years ago, and it is quite tall and it is quite large, and I cannot move it, and I don't want to risk losing it. So I'm just letting it do its thing. But if I could go back in time, I would plant this one at the back of my garden. It's a great visual interest to give you depth in your garden if you plant it in the back. Another fabulous one, kidney wood. I'm not going to make you giggle by trying to say the Latin name on this one, but I will say it's important to know the Latin name, because this is one of the ones that it has a lot of different common names. One of them is bee brush, but I don't know about you, but I know a couple different plants that go by common name bee brush, right? So Latin is really important. This is a deciduous, fast-growing, multi-trunked tree, 8 to 15 feet tall by 6 to 8 feet wide, prefers full sun to part shade. Airy open canopy, again, with that delicate compound, aromatic leaves. When crushed, they have a citrus-like smell. The same smell that you get from the blooms. If you crush the leaves, you get that same kind of, I've heard it described as a greasy citrus smell. It's like, okay, I kind of understand that. Some people love it and some people don't. I'm in the camp, I love it. So to each their own, but heat, cold, and drought tolerant. Another very low water use tree. Can tolerate many soil conditions, also found in a variety of ecoregions here in Texas. Blooms with aromatic white flowers and 4-inch spikes, May through October, especially after rain, which I don't know about y'all, but we haven't had any in a long time. My kidney woods are quite toasty at this point in the fall. They looked fabulous about a month ago. Fabiaceae, again, another nitrogen fixing plant tree. Fruit is again a legume seed pod. This one also can sucker to form thickets. So if you want to keep it as a single tree, I want to have you prune those suckers to avoid thickets. This one is not deer resistant. When you go out in the wild, you tend to see them either below deer height or much larger. There's really no in between. The deer kind of help keep the low ones low. They kind of munch them every single year. So this one, you would want a cage if you wanted to protect it. in the beginning while it's established. Another larval host plant for the dog-faced butterfly. Another gorgeous native tree, desert willow. Deciduous, fast-growing, multi-trunk tree, 20 to 30 feet tall by 15 to 25 feet wide, excuse me. Prefers full sun, is heat, cold, and drought tolerant, moderate deer resistance. Prefers limestone soil. This one will not grow as fast in clay soil. And I will say, avoid overwatering or fertilizing this tree. It really just doesn't need it. When it's fertilized, it tends to make it grow faster and leads to weaker wood. So yay, no fertilizer. Thank you. One less thing to think about. But we're native plant people. We don't really use a lot of fertilizer anyway, right? Another one with an open canopy that provides really great dappled shade for planting underneath. Blooms April through October, heaviest May through June with beautiful exotic looking fragrant flowers, tunnel shaped blooms with many different colors available, pinks and purples, mostly with white or yellow stripes down the throat. Showy flowers are a good source of nectar, which attract hummingbirds, butterflies, and other insects. And the fruit is a long, slender seed pod. Did I see a question? No. Oh. Another good one. This one is a little bit contentious though. Texas ash. You'll notice there are two different names on here. The Wildflower Center has one, Native Plant Society has another. When I'm in doubt, I go with the Native Plant Society because I trust y'all. Large, fast-growing deciduous tree, typically with a single trunk, 30 to 50 feet, both tall and wide. Separate male and female trees, both have inconspicuous flowers, females being more green, while males are more purple. Prefers part shade, low water use, and rocky limestone soils, drought, heat, and cold tolerant. Another densely branched canopy, excellent nesting for birds, and the tree's fruit is a winged samara, which is another bird food source. Are you guys familiar with Central Texas Gardener? Do y'all watch Central Texas Gardener? So the new host is John Hart Asher. The old host was Tom Spencer. I don't know if y'all remember Tom Spencer. We lost him this year. He passed away this past year. But whenever I think of Texas Ash, I think of him talking about on Central Texas Gardener that he went to Lost Maples to go to see the fall show put on by the maple trees. And in Tom's characteristic, way of talking, he said, the prettiest tree in the whole park was the Texas ash. So rather than all the beautiful maples that he went to go see, the Texas ash was the one that bestowed his heart. So I think about him when I think about this tree. It has yellow, orange, and maroon fall color. It's also a host plant for the eastern tiger swallowtail. Now here's where the controversy comes. We have this new pest that has come from Asia. Who here has heard of the emerald ash borer? We don't want them here. They're coming. I will say I'm a little nervous about it. According to Texas A&M Forest Service, it has not been found in Travis County where I'm from yet. I believe I heard Bell County was the closest that it's been found since July of 2025. But be aware, these are coming to our ecoregions and they are killing ash trees. They're a really aggressive pest. I am still choosing to plant Texas ashes. I think they're a fabulous tree and they're really great for, a larval host plant, fall color. Like I said, there's a lot of different wonderful attributes. What I'm personally doing, I'm not planting 5 of them. I'm planting 1 Texas ash kind of intermixed with other trees to kind of camouflage it a little bit. I think you're kind of creating a bullseye if you do a big swath of Texas ash. So that's my tip. Use your best judgment. On your resources, I did on the back page put a little link to the emerald ash borer information so you can keep an eye on how close it's coming. Yes.
Resources.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I will say, I really love the native plant Texas native plant database. You guys, The Wildflower Center website is fabulous too. It has a lot of information, but sometimes you want to get on and just find the info quick and not like read through paragraphs of it. And I really appreciate the brevity. You know, you can get the information quick and then kind of keep researching past that point if you'd like to. But they're always the most up to date. I just feel like it's really user friendly. Wildflower Center is also a fabulous resource, though. That is definitely one of my favorite go-tos as well. Another fun one, Western soapberry. I will say I am holding this leaf. So this is not the way it really looks right off the tree. It's kind of more of a, branching branch. This is just me holding the leaf so I could get a good shot of it. Moderate growing deciduous single trunk tree, 10 to 50 feet tall by 12 feet wide. Drought, cold, heat, wind, poor soil, air pollution tolerant, deer resistant, very few diseases and pest problems. What more could you possibly ask for, right? This one also likes to form thickets, so if not desired, prune back those suckers. Prefers full sun to part shade, low water use. Large clusters, we're talking 10 inches long by 6 inches wide of cream colored flowers, May through June. Fleshy, round, half-inch fruit, poisonous to humans, so do not munch these berries, please. The berries have an alkaloid called saponin in it, which has been used to make a soap-like product. The indigenous folks used it as a soap replacement. They also used to, it's funny, you were talking about using the poison of the snow on the mountains. They also use the poison of the berries from the soap berries to sting fish in the river, and it would make fishing easier. So don't eat the berries. Golden fall leaf color. Larval host for the soapberry hairstreak butterfly. All right. And there are a lot of really good oaks to choose from. And if I was able to talk for a longer bit of time, I would have included a lot more. But this one really steals my heart because it's the lacy oak. It's the perfect oak for small suburban lots. I love it because it doesn't get large and sprawling like some of our other live oak species. So medium-sized, slow-growing, but kind of decent for an oak tree. You know, oaks are slow-growing in general. This is one of the faster-growing oaks, not quite as fast as bur oak. Also less susceptible to oak wilt than the red oak or the live oaks. Prefers sun to part shade, rocky limestone soils, and is native to the Edwards Plateau. Drought, heat, and cold tolerant. This one is not deer resistant, so you're going to want to cage this one until it gets above deer height. Thick, waxy leaves are peach when they first appear in the spring, which is so cool. I really appreciate that little pop of color right in the beginning of the spring. Then they turn into this really beautiful gray, green, blue color leaf, which is very unusual compared to our other oak trees. Tiny flowers range on catkins, blooms March through May. The fruits are acorns. Provide food and cover for deer, small mammals, and birds. All right, and this is the big one, bur oak. Quercus macrocarpa. Macrocarpa actually means large fruit, so it's appropriately named. Large size, moderate growth rate, single trunk tree, 60 to 80 feet tall, 30 by 50 feet wide. This one is very long lived. This one lives to 200 to 300 years old, which is quite impressive. Large dense canopy makes for an excellent shade tree, usually just about wide as tall. As you can see, it's not perfect, but as far as oak trees, it's a pretty nice wide one. Not susceptible to oak wilt as red or live oaks. This one needs water to get adapted in the beginning, established, but once it is established, it is one of the most drought resistant oaks we have. It's also heat, cold tolerant. It is not deer resistant, so it's another one you're going to want to protect from the deer. Grows best in deep soil. Can tolerate limestone, but it's happiest with a little bit of soil under its feet. The leaves are up to 9 inches long, which is just incredible to me. I'm a Travis County Master Gardener, and one of the activities that we do a lot of kids activities, and one of them is we make leaf crowns with the kids. So whenever we bring the bur oak leaves, those are the ones that everybody flocks to first because they have these beautiful headdresses of bur oak leaves. It's really fun. Giant acorns. They're huge, like think golf balls. Because of that, I wouldn't necessarily plant this right next to my driveway. Maybe you don't want golf balls falling on your car. It is called bur oak because of the burrs on the acorns. We're going to see a close-up of it in just a moment, and it resembles the burrs of a chestnut tree. Flowers are found on catkins March through May. It is another larval host plant to the Edwards hair streak and the Horace's dusky wing butterflies. So we've got on this side a comparison of the bur oak leaf to a red oak. Isn't that just incredible? They're just so big. And then this is not a child's hand. This is my hand. So these are really quite large, beautiful acorns. All right, and I just want to leave you with some resources here. These are some of my favorite native Texas tree books. We've got the Wasowski's Classic. I love this one. Andrea DeLong Amaya was the horticulturist in charge of the Wildflower Center. She has stepped down, but this is her new book. It is fabulous, great photos. I really love Texas trees, Texas shrubs, and Texas Trees, Shrubs, and Vines is another fabulous book. And then we kind of touched briefly on our resources here. So Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, fabulous. Native Plant Society, fabulous. I also like the Grow Green Guide. I know that as native plant people, we don't agree with every plant in the Grow Green Guide, but the majority of the trees that we talked about today are featured in the Grow Green Guide. I think it's a really accessible way for people that are not into native plants or don't know enough native plants to kind of get basic information. It provides really good knowledge about light requirements and sizes so people can make the right decisions about what to plant in their own yard. I mentioned a little bit that I'm a volunteer with Tree Folks. They have fabulous information on how to care for trees. So if you're ever, how to plant a tree, how to care for different trees, Tree Folks has a fabulous info guide on there. I will say, yes.
Tree Folks also has an amazing urban forest tree steward program. I did that about 10 years ago, and that's part of what started getting me into native plants to begin with.
So I've been I volunteer with Tree Folks, but I also volunteer with Central Texas Seed Savers. And right now they have this program called the Seed to Tree Pipeline Project, where Tree Folks is leading Tree ID Walks, which was the one I went on to talk about the different trees. We were talking about soapberry and flameleaf sumac and Chinese pistache. So we go out and teach people how to identify trees in the wild and how to ethically harvest seeds. And then the goal is to have those people return the seeds to Tree Folks, and Tree Folks has opened their own nursery to grow these native trees because they're really not available in the quantities that they need, especially for reforestation projects in Austin. So it's not only Central Texas Seed Savers and Tree Folks, but it also is the City of Austin and the Austin Watershed Department are all working together to promote native trees. And it's such a fabulous cause. I really love it. So yeah. Take a look at Central Texas Seed Savers. I highly recommend them. And then, of course, we have the info on the emerald ash borer too, so you guys can stay up to date and make the right decisions as to whether a Texas ash is the right tree for you. And then I'm just going to end it here with, if you ever want to connect with me outside of this, my Instagram is Love of the Plants, and my email is easy to remember, baileylovesplants@gmail.com. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Where?
Ooh, Native Plant Society plant sales are a great one to find evergreen sumac.
Texas growers may have.
Wildflower Center plant sale is going on right now. That's one. The Wildflower Center plant sale in Austin, they run for about a month every weekend. I've had really good luck. And one of the things that's cool about that is they list their plant list. So before you go shopping, you can actually see, because every weekend their availability changes. So I like to go take a peek at the list before I battle it out at the, because sometimes it's like a lot of people looking for the special plants. So it's a little, you know, a little dicey sometimes. But yeah, I am seeing it actually more in the nursery trades. Natural Gardener in Austin, in Southwest Austin, I tell people in the plant world, I live dangerously close to the Natural Gardener. I spend way too much money there. I have seen them there. Barton Springs Nursery in Austin and is another good resource. I really love Barton Springs Nursery because they sell a lot of 1 and 5 gallon trees. And in my experience, they're the easiest to grow. You have the smallest hole to dig. They establish really fast. So I don't know about you, but yeah, I like the 1 and 5 gallons, and you save a little bit of money, right? Yes.
The Glenwood Sumac, we had those in Maryland and, people were advised to not go near those plants because the sap was, like, poison ivy, it would make it itchy and.
Interesting. I have not personally had that experience.
Poison.
I think it's different.
Maybe it was, they said, the red ones, the red.
I've never had the issue with my flame leaf sumac, and I garden all around my flame leaf sumac, so I'm not sure about that one. Yeah. And that's just showing too, like the issues with common names, right? You know, so many sumacs that if you don't know that exact variety, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Any other questions?
When you make that Yopon tea, do you pick younger leaves or older leaves, or does it matter?
I don't think it really matters because it's an evergreen tree. So it doesn't like change, you know, they don't get too brittle in the winter. So I think, yeah, I know I have an event in January. I'm speaking at the Austin Herb Society, and I'm going to be brewing some Yopon tea, and I am not pre-harvesting. I'm going to wait until closer to the event and do it then. So no, I don't think you would have any issues in different times of the years. But just make sure to not include the berries in your tea. Yes.
Is it possible this time to sit around a young sapling that's in the ground?
Oh, I don't like digging it out of the ground.
Yeah.
I personally don't have a lot of luck digging up things in my yard just because I have so much limestone. By the time I get it out of the limestone soil, it's usually kind of beat up. Cedar elms are usually pretty easy to find in the nursery trade too. So that's just my personal opinion. I would just go out and buy one personally, and cedar elm is a great example of if I had 2 hours to talk about trees, I would definitely be talking about cedar elms. They're another fabulous tree, great nesting for birds, fabulous fall color. But yeah, unfortunately, that one didn't make the cut. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you. All right.